If you do the math, if you do a pack a day, that's $6 a day, which can equivalent to about $200 a month. When you're battling a pandemic, you want to feel some sense of normalcy. So you do have those vices that come about. So if you're thinking you're spending $200 to $300 a month on something that is not a necessity, and over time that is thousands of dollars per year. You think if you get $1 raise working full time, right, 40 hours a week, that raise equivalates to 2,080 cents, right? Yeah. That's how much people are spending their raise. Lawrence Cain Jr., CEO of Abundance University and 3 times self-published author. Sure. So Abundance University is a financial empowerment company. So we do financial literacy for both the youth and adults. And then we also do a variety of financial coaching, both for personal finance as well as entrepreneurs. The number one thing is that a lot of people who we come in contact with are emotional with their money. They're emotional with how they view spending money, making money, the things that they buy with their money. They're emotionally attached to it. And I think the real practice is understanding that money is a tool. It's not a result, and it's definitely not the end all be all. It's not what gives you who you are in the social realm. So that's the very first thing that I see amongst a lot of people. And it really doesn't matter how much money they per se make. It's really, again, about how much they spend, what they spend it on, and how that makes them feel. We have bad situations, right? We come from not knowing a lot of these things that we should know. Right. And you can't beat yourself up from a 19 or, like we were talking about off camera, 20-year-old decision. And you're, 10 years from now, you're still harping on, that school check that you blew. Like that's not going to be something that you can change, but you can change how, again, you move forward. Yeah. You're now smarter, you're wiser, and you actually, a lot of us that are in our, late 20s, early 30s, we actually have things that we are fighting for. And it's important to get our finances together so we can fight those fights. I think really, like you said, it's case by case, but there is a stat. If you do the math, if you do a pack a day, that's $6 a day, which can equivalent to about $200 a month. Mm-hmm. And just the use of it, use of tobacco. If you drink, if you're drinking, especially if you go out to bars, we know that alcohol is way more expensive in a social setting than it is at home. So then you factor that in. When you're battling a pandemic, you want to feel some sense of normalcy. So you do have those vices that come about. So if you're thinking you're spending $200 to $300 a month on something that is not a necessity, and over time that is thousands of dollars per year. You think if you get $1 raise working full time, right, 40 hours a week, that raise equivalates to 2,080 cents, right? Yeah. That's how much people are spending their raise in tobacco or alcohol. But then you say, man, I need to save more money, or I need to do more with my money. That's one of the main things. If you can quit, cut back, and gradually, get off of these things, that again, you can now put that money into investment accounts. You can put that money into a business that you may want to start, or you can start having an emergency fund of 6 to 12 months. You talked about COVID. Yeah. There's a lot of people that just they didn't have money saved. There's businesses that didn't save money, and now we're dealing with that effect of not being diligent with our money. It's important that going forward, again, we can't change what happened in the past, but what we can change is, again, the culture in which we want to live under, which is having great financial behaviors. And I think quitting, those addictions and really fighting, against it on a consistent basis and being around the right people will help us get to those points. When you have these addictions, these health issues, it limits you to get coverage, and it also limits the amount that you can get. So you have people that have $1 million policies, but they don't have any addiction. So their premiums are lower, and they are able to wield this policy to their loved ones if something happens to them. Yeah. Whereas somebody who, smokes or drinks excessively, when it comes to getting that policy, they may not get approved. And if they do get approved, they're going to have that high premium. So again, like not saving money, right? You're paying more money for a product that people are spending less money on. And the amount of coverage that you're getting is not as significant as it would if you were in tip-top health. It is literally transferring and eventually automating it. I think automation is the biggest component for saving because you don't even think about it. It's not that's where it's already taken care of for you. But I think that if somebody who, let's say again, smokes a pack a day, if you can take it down initially to, instead of a pack a day, I'll do 5 packs a week as opposed to 7. You take the money that you would spend for those 2 packs, transfer that automatically into your savings. So if you do that for a whole month, you've saved more money automatically off of that. And at the same time, you're fighting against that addiction to be able to get off of, whatever you're addicted to, the cigarettes, the alcohol, and then you're gradually building up that savings account. And there's a lot of things that can happen in a year where that money now is working for you. And now you're healthier at the end of the year. So I think it's a week by week thing. Sometimes we see so far out, people like, man, if I want to save $5,000, that's a lot when I'm only saving $25 a month now. You just have to set the plan up and be very diligent in the day to day. How do you feel about the purchases you make, right? There are some people that grew up in situations where they couldn't buy the latest Jordans. Now that they're older, they're spending their money on the Jordans because it makes them feel a sense of pride now because now I can afford them. Meanwhile, they have $60,000 worth of student debt. They have, different balances that they go overdue. And now you're paying fees for things that you had the money, but you're spending it on Jordans. So it's again, that piece where you grew up a certain way. Now you're emotional about being able to afford it when you can spend that money somewhere else. Also, when you talk about saving, right? I think we all fundamentally know that saving is a good thing. And saving is really a necessity in capitalism. But then when you talk about, man, you feel like it's a sacrifice. So now you feel like it's a bad thing to save when fundamentally it's good. So you're fighting yourself on something that is actually going to benefit you. And my motto is saving is spending on your future self. Okay. So I think if people get that mindset, again, it's the principles. In my book, all 3 books I've written are all principle-based books. So from the business owner to the husband that just wants to be better for his finances to a teenager who is about to, start applying for colleges. We have books for those people to get the right mindset, get their emotions out, and then be able to replace the emotions with principles. So I think it was Warren Buffett that talked about, you don't spend and then save what's left. You save and then spend what's left. So I think first and foremost, you have to make saving a bill. So when you write down your monthly items, the monthly bills, the monthly expenses, you have to factor in saving. And again, it doesn't have to be this big amount. I try to, with my clients, I try to get them to what I call a stress-free number, where it's like you don't feel like, again, it's a burden for saving that, or you feel like you're going to touch it because it may be a sale or anything like that. So that's the very first step. Get that number to a point where, it can be $5 a month for all I care. if it's a number where you know you're not going to touch it, start there. But then we also have to be innovative in how we generate money, because we usually spend money every day, but we only generate money. We only touch money every 2 weeks or by, so those are the things where it's like you have to be innovative in how you drive income into your household. Everybody should have an emergency fund of what I believe $1,000 per person in the household. That should be the very first goal. So again, if it's 4 of you, you should have $4,000, because the more people you have in your household, the higher your expenses are, and the chances of if something happens, you will have to pay a little bit more than what somebody else would, right? So that's the very first thing that you want to look at. You set that goal. Then you also look at, again, I think COVID has shown us that we have to have at least 6 months of living expenses, right? We're in November and we've been in this since March. So I think getting having that tangible, okay, we have enough to where the bare minimum groceries, housing, and, transportation, if you drive to work, and if you have a car note, those things are taken care of for 6 months while you continue to cultivate what those next 6 months will look like. It's just, again, bare minimum. We have to think, one of the principles in my book is you have to remember that the seed is smaller than the harvest. It's always smaller. You see these big trees, it started with one small seed. So if you continue to sow seeds every single day, and again, embrace the journey in which, what you're on, it just has no choice but to come to you, because you're putting all of that energy into it. And you're not, again, it's not an emotional thing. It's a principle driven thing.